All right, so how does Miss Atchison teach adding and subtracting fractions with unlike denominators? Here we go. I tell the kids to write it vertically up and down because it makes it easier to find that common denominator to make the equivalent fraction. A lot of kids can see it better if they are going this way with it instead of trying to go down with it when you write it the other way. So I tell them if it helps to just go ahead and rewrite it vertically. And then they're going to have to find the least common multiple of 2 and 5, which is going to be 10. If they can't think of the least common multiple, I told them it would be okay to just go ahead and multiply the denominators together because that would give them a common multiple. It just wouldn't be the least common multiple. So then I tell them to ask themselves the question, how did they go from 2 to 10? And most of them can tell me they multiplied by 5. So I tell them to, whatever they do to the bottom, they have to do to the top. And so 1 times 5 would be 5. And then down here, 5 times what gave me 10? And they could tell me 2. And so whatever I do to the bottom denominator, I have to do to the numerator. So 2 times 2 would give me 4. A lot of the kids make a mistake because they think, oh, I'm using 2, so they make that the numerator. And we go over and over and over telling them that you have to multiply it times the original numerator before you can put it over here. So once you get your common denominator, then you're just going to add, so that would be 9/10. Another example that I could do would be, let's say 1/2 plus 2/8. Here again, they could, if they didn't pick 8 as the denominator and they multiplied it together, they could say 16, and then 2 times what gave me 16, and they could tell me 8, and so 1 times 8 would be, of course, 8, and then 8 times 2 is 16, so 2 times 2 is 4, which that would give me 12/16. And then I would have to simplify it and put it in simplest form. And I told them that that is one of the things that you would have to look for and make sure you do if you don't use the least common multiple. So in this case, we would have to divide these by 4, so it would be 3/4, because you want to pick the greatest common factor that they both share. So it would end up being 3/4. If they had used the least common multiple, I do tell them that, you know, that works 99.9% of the time. But then there are some cases where even if you do use the least common multiple, you are still going to have to simplify. So this is a great example of that one, because 2 times 4 would give us 8, so we got to multiply it up here. And then 8 times 1 gave me 8, so 2 times 1 is 2, which I told them this is the reason why if you're using this one as your denominator, the fraction's not going to change. You can just bring it on over. But when you add these, you're going to get 6/8, which most of the kids are going to stop right there because they've used the least common multiple, so they think this is their answer. But I tell them that if the numbers are both even, then they should automatically know that they can be divided by 2. So that should be 3/4 as well as the one up top. So I hope that explains how we add fractions. We would subtract them the same way.